Good evening. Dahoy number 5. Stillness and Commotion. Having read your letter carefully, I have come to know that you are unremitting in your conduct, that you are not carried away by the press of the official duties, and that, in the midst of swift flowing streams, you vigorously examine yourself. Far from being lax, your aspiration to the path grows even more firm as time goes on. You have fulfilled my humble wishes solidly and profoundly. Nevertheless, worldly passions are like a blazing fire. When will they ever end? Right in the midst of the hubbub, you mustn't forget the business of the bamboo chair and reed cushion, meditation. Usually, to meditate, you set your mind on a still concentration point, but you must be able to use it right in the midst of the hubbub. If you have no strength amidst commotion, after all, it's as if you never made any effort in stillness. I have heard that there was once some complicated situation in the past, and now you are experiencing sadness of the outcome. Alone, you do not dare to hear your fate. If you arouse this thought, then it will obstruct the path. An ancient worthy said, "If you can recognize the inherent nature while going along with the flow, there is neither joy nor sorrow." Vimalakirti said, "It's like this. The high plateau does not produce lotus flowers. It is the mire of the low swamplands that produces these flowers." The old barbarian, Buddha, said, "Truthlessness does not keep to its own nature, but according to circumstances brings out all phenomenal things." He also said, "Proceeding to effect according to circumstances, it extends everywhere, while always here upon this seat of enlightenment." Would they deceive people? If you consider quietude right and commotion wrong, then this is seeking the real aspect by destroying the worldly aspect, seeking nirvana, the peace of extinction, apart from birth and death. When you like the quiet and hate the hubbub, this is just the time to apply effort. Suddenly, when in the midst of the hubbub, you topple the scene of quietude, that power surpasses the meditation seat and cushion by 1,000,000 billion times. Don't cling to stillness. Once you have achieved peaceful stillness of body and mind, you must make earnest effort. Do not immediately settle down in peaceful stillness. In the teachings this is called the deep pit of liberation, much to be feared. You must make yourself turn freely, like a gourd floating on the water, independent and free, not subject to restraints, entering purity and impurity without being obstructed or sinking down. Only then do you have a little familiarity with the school of the patched-robed monks. If you just manage to cradle the uncrying child in your arms, what's the use? Don't pray for relief. Then she said, "If you can put to rest the mind that frantically seeks from moment to moment, you will be no different from old Shakyamuni Buddha. He wasn't fooling people. Even bodhisattvas of the 7th stage seek Buddha knowledge without their minds being satisfied." Footnote. Therefore it is called affliction. Really, there's no way to manage. It's impossible to apply the slightest external measure. Footnote says, the Hua Yin scripture propounds 10 stages of bodhisattvahood. Only with the 7th, far-going stage is the discriminating knowledge that clings to existence and non-existence cut off. But at the 7th stage there is still agent and object, wisdom apart from the truth, and hence accomplishment. Though entering the gate of knowledge of contemplating emptiness, they scrupulously cultivate merit. Though detached from the 3 worlds, they adorn the 3 worlds. When the 8th stage, outward seeking, ceases, the accomplishment is abandoned, even as the Dharma is actualized in this immovable stage. All the great deeds of benefiting self and others are likened to what happens when a person dreams of drowning and generates a great burst of energy and acts with expedient means to save himself, and thus by his efforts wakes up. After he awakens, his doings cease. Back to our regularly scheduled teaching. Several years ago, there was a certain layman, Su, who was able to find an opening. He sent me a letter expressing his understanding that said, "Empty and open in my daily activities, there is not a single thing opposing me. Finally, I realized that all things in the three worlds are fundamentally non-existent. Truly this is peace and happiness, joyful liveliness, having cast it all away." Accordingly, I instructed him with a verse. Don't be fond of purity. Purity makes people weary. Don't be fond of joyful liveliness. Joyful liveliness makes people crazy. As water conforms to the vessel, it accordingly becomes square or round, short or long. As for casting away or not casting away, please think it over more carefully. The three worlds and myriad things are no refuge. Where is there any home? If you are just thus, this is the great contradiction. This is to inform layman Su that his own kin are creating disaster. Open wide the eye of the 1,000 sages and do not keep praying for relief. It's only been 6 minutes. Emptying mind and objects. In the daily activities of a student of the path, to empty objects is easy, but to empty mind is hard. If objects are empty, but mind is not empty, mind will be overcome by objects. Just empty the mind, and objects will be empty of themselves. If the mind is already emptied, but then you arouse a second thought, wishing to empty its objects, this means that this mind is not yet empty, and is again carried away by objects. If this sickness is not done away with, there is no way to get out of birth and death. Haven't you seen the verse which layman Pang presented to Matsu? In the 10 directions, the same congregation. Each and every one studies non-doing. This is the place where Buddhas are chosen. Minds empty, they return successful. Once this mind is empty, then what is there outside of mind that can be emptied? Think it over. Non-duality. If your mind does not run off searching, or think falsely, or get involved with objects, then this very burning house of passion is itself the place to escape the three worlds. Didn't Buddha say, not depending on or abiding in any situation, not having any discrimination, one clearly sees the vast establishment of reality and realizes that all worlds and all things are equal and non-dual. Thus, a bodhisattva of the far-going stage goes beyond all in the two vehicles, by virtue of the power of the knowledge and wisdom which he practices. Though he has attained the treasury of the Buddha realm, yet to teach he appears in the realms of delusion. Though he has transcended the ways of delusion, yet he appears to practice the stuff of delusion. Though he appears to act the same as outsiders, he does not abandon the Buddhist teachings. Though he appears to go along with all that is worldly, he is perpetually practicing all world-transcending ways. These are the real expedient devices within the burning house of passion. The two vehicles. Footnote. The two vehicles are those of the Sharvyakas and the Pratyeka Buddhas. They realize emptiness as the antithesis of the world. Sharvyakas Pges from hearing the teaching of enlightenment. The Pratyeka Buddhas form their own observation of cause and effect. Like ordinary sentient beings, those in the two vehicles are not liberated. Both are held back by objects, the ordinary run by clinging to them, the two vehicles by rejecting them. Those in the two vehicles loathe and fear birth and death, but not comprehending that there's nothing outside mind. In contrast, the bodhisattvas, they shun the world and seek extinction and peace, grasping their own experience of emptiness. They do not mix with the world of delusion and help other beings toward liberation. No, Tiny. He knows what I'm doing. If people who study transcendent wisdom, Pges, abandon these expedients and go along with passions, they will certainly be controlled by the demons of delusion. And while yielding to sense objects, to oppose theories, and say that affliction is itself enlightenment, and ignorance is itself great wisdom, to act in terms of existence within every step while taking... Concentration has been destroyed. Oh, 11 minutes in. I could probably read like 15 of these at this rate. Hold on, that one's a long one. Okay, we know when we're stopping. Alright, it's back on track. These are the real, expedient devices within the burning house of passion. If people who study transcendent wisdom, Pges, abandon these expedients and go along with passions, they will certainly be controlled by demons and delusion, or demons of delusion. And while yielding to sense objects, to impose theories that say affliction is itself enlightenment, and ignorance is itself great wisdom, to act in terms of existence with every step, while talking of emptiness with each breath, without admonishing oneself for being dragged along by the power of habitual action, to go on and teach others to deny cause and effect, the vicious poison of misguided delusion has entered the guts of people who act like this. They want to escape from passion, but it's like trying to put out a fire by pouring on oil. Aren't they to be pitied? Only having penetrated all the way through can you say that affliction is itself enlightenment, and ignorant is identical to great wisdom. Within the wondrous mind of the original vast quiescence, pure, clear, perfect illumination, there is not a single thing that can cause obstruction. It is like the emptiness of space. Even the word Buddha is something alien. To say nothing of there still being passions or afflictions as the opposite. The great affair. This affair is like the bright sun in the blue sky, shining clearly, changeless and motionless, without diminishing or increasing. It shines everywhere, in the daily activities of everyone, appearing in everything. Though you try to grasp it, you cannot get it. Though you try to abandon it, it always remains. It is vast and unobstructed, utterly empty. Like a gourd floating on water, it cannot be reined in or held down. Since ancient times, when good people of the path have attained this, they have appeared and disappeared in the sea of birth and death, able to use it fully. There is no deficit or surplus. Like cutting up sandalwood, each piece is it. Where do the passions of birth and death arise from? Where can it be located when gathering the causes to produce the effect? Since there is no place to locate it, Buddha is illusion and Dharma is illusion. The three worlds, the 25 states of being, the sense organs, the sense objects, and consciousness are utterly empty. When you get to this realm, there is no place to even put the word Buddha. If even the word Buddha has no applicability, where is their true thusness, Buddha nature, enlightenment, or nirvana? Thus, the great being Fu said, fearing that people will give rise to a view of annihilation, we provisionally established empty names. Students of the path who do not understand this principle are always going to the stories of people of old entering the path, looking for mysteries and subtleties and marvels, seeking interpretations and understanding. They are unable to see the moon and forget the pointing finger, unable to cut directly through with one blow. This is what Young Chia called understanding the empty fist, which will go right to the footnote. Buddhist teachings are all skillful expedients suited to the circumstances and potentials of the listener. This is likened to holding out a closed fist, as if it contained some treat to pacify a crying child. Where did that go? This says the 5 clumps are the skandhas, the aggressions or heaps, matter, sensation, perception, synthesizing functions for addition, and consciousness. The 25 states of being span the 3 worlds, and the world of desire, the evil planes of existence, and hell, as ghosts, animals, or ungodly beings, the human world, and in the heavens of desire, and in the realms of form, and all various meditation heavens, and the floors. Okay, moving on. Da-di-da. A lot of Buddhist stuff there. This is what Young Cha called understanding the empty fist, as though they were actually something in it, falsely making up wonders within the senses of their objects. Such people vainly imprison themselves within the passions of the 5 clumps, the sense organs, objects, and consciousness of sensation, the 25 states of being. The Tathagata said that they are to be pitied. Now, haven't you seen Yin Tsao's saying, just have no desires and depend on nothing, then you'll be capable of goodness. All the time, there's just been a lump of flesh born of your parents. Unless you come up with a bit of energy, it is subject to the control of others. What else is there outside the lump of flesh? What can you hold to be wonderful, mysterious, or marvelous? What can you take to be enlightenment or nirvana? What can you take to be true thusness or Buddha nature? You wanted to investigate this affair to the end, but from the first, you have not gotten to the root of its reality. You just wanted to seek knowledge and understanding from the public cases of the ancients. Even if you had a thorough knowledge and understanding of the entire Buddhist canon on the last day of your life, when birth and death come up, you won't be able to use it at all. There's another sort. As soon as they hear a wise advisor speak on such an affair, they still use their conceptual minds to figure it out and say, well, if it's like this, then won't I fall into emptiness? 10 out of 10 gentlemen of affairs entertain this kind of view. I have no choice but to tell them, you haven't ever reached emptiness, so what are you afraid of? It is as if you're trying to leap out of the water before the boat is capsized. When I see that they don't understand, I don't spare the mouthwork. I try once more to create trailing vines for them. I say, this one who fears falling into emptiness, has he been emptied or not? If your eyes aren't empty, how can you see forms? If your ears aren't empty, how can you hear sound? If your nose isn't empty, how can you smell scents? If your tongue isn't empty, how can you taste flavors? If your body isn't empty, how can you feel contact? If your intellect isn't empty, how can you distinguish the myriad phenomena? Didn't Buddha say that there is no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, or mind, no form, sound, scent, flavor, touch, or phenomenon, no sense organs, or sense objects, or consciousness of sensation, no 25 states of being? even Sharvakas, Pratyeka Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and Buddhas, as well as the doctrines preached by Buddha, enlightenment, nirvana, true thusness, Buddha nature, along with all those who expound these doctrines, and those who listen to these doctrines, those who make up these teachings, and those who accept these teachings. None of these exist. When you reach such a realization, do you call it empty or not empty? Do you call it Buddha, Bodhisattva, Sharvyaka, Pratyeka Buddha? Do you call it enlightenment or nirvana? Do you call it true thusness or Buddhahood, Buddha nature? Let those who say they are intelligent and quick-witted and not fooled by others try to determine what's what here. If you can settle it correctly, you should stay in a grass hut by yourself and live beyond the gate of the monastery. If you cannot determine for sure, just don't open your big mouth to speak of things that are beyond you. When men of power want to investigate this one great affair to the end, they all break down their facades, and, with bold spirit, draw their spines straight up. Do not go along with the feelings of others. Take your own constant point of doubt and stick it on your forehead. Always be as if you owed someone millions, with nothing to repay, and pay with when pressed for payment. Fearful of humiliation by others. Only thus will you have some distinct direction in the task of finding urgency where there is no urgency, getting busy where there is no pressure, and finding importance where there is no importance. Working diligently day and night, while eating and drinking, when joyful or angry, in clean places or unclean places, in family gatherings, when entertaining guests, when dealing with official business in your post, when concluding a betrothal. All of these are first-class times to make efforts to arouse and alert yourself and awaken. In the olden days, Military Governor Li Wen-ho was able to study Chan and attain great penetration and great enlightenment while in the thick of wealth and rank. When Yang Wen-kung successfully studied Chan, he was dwelling in the Imperial Hanlin Academy. When Chang Wen-chun studied Chan, he was the Minister for Transport at Kangsai. These three elders were examples of this, not destroying the worldly aspect while speaking of the real aspect. When has it ever been necessary to leave wife and children, quit one's job, chew on vegetable roots, and cause pain to the body? Those of inferior aspiration shun clamor and seek quietude. Thus they enter the ghost cave of Dead Tree Chan, entertaining false ideas that only thus can they awaken to the path. Haven't you seen Layman Pang's words? Just have no mind in myriad things. Then what hindrance is there when myriad things surround you? The iron ox does not fear the lion's roar. It's like a wooden man seeing pictures of flowers and birds. The wooden man's body itself has no feelings, and the painted birds aren't startled when meeting the man. Mind and objects are thus. Only this is. Why worry that the path of enlightenment will not be fulfilled? Pardon me. If you can manage to not forget the matter of birth and death while in the midst of the passions of the world, that even though you do not immediately smash the lacquer bucket of ignorance, nevertheless, you will have planted deep the seed wisdom of transcendental knowledge. Pranja. In another lifetime, you will appear and save your mental power. You won't fall into evil dispositions. You'll overcome that sinking down into the defilement of passion. Not seeking escape. Some say, this affair should not be treated casually, and make of it an object of veneration and faith. Views like this are countless. As gentlemen of affairs, your study of the path differs greatly from mine as a home leaver. Leavers of home do not serve their parents and abandon all of their relatives for good. Leavers of home do not serve their parents, and they abandon all their relatives for good. With one jug and one bowl, in daily activities according to circumstances, there are not so many enemies to obstruct the path. With one mind and one intent, home leavers just investigate this affair thoroughly. But when a gentleman of affairs opens his eyes and is mindful of what he sees, there is nothing that is not an empty spirit blocking the path. If he has wisdom, he makes his meditational effort right there. As Vimalakriti said, the compassions of passion are the progenitors of the Tathagatas. I fear that people will destroy the worldly aspect to seek the real aspect. He also made a comparison. It is like the high plateau not producing lotus flowers. It is the mud of the low-lying marshlands that produces these flowers. If you can penetrate through right here, as those three elders, Wang Win Kung, Lin Win Ho, and Chen Wu Chen did, your powers will surpass that of us leavers of home by 20-fold. What's the reason? We leavers of home are on the outside breaking in. Gentlemen of affairs are on the inside breaking out. The power of one on the outside breaking in is weak. The power of the one on the inside breaking out is strong. Strong means that what is opposed is heavy. So in overturning it, there is power. Weak means what is opposed is light. So in overturning it, there is little power. Although there is strong and weak in terms of power, what is opposed is the same. Alrighty, it's on for tonight.